I've been thinking about water lately. I'm guessing it's because it's been raining for 4 days here in Boise. The constant pitter-patter of raindrops forcing themselves into my conscience. And so with each step, I find myself thinking about water. Water is just so interesting. In one sense, water can provide a space of tranquility, and in another, it shows such power, making its way through the land, wearing down edges, working through what it can, carving its own path. As I looked at the rain falling down one evening, I couldn't help but think of the way COVID-19 virus has moved through our landscape, weaving through our lives, winding its way through our society, carving its own path and leaving its mark. We're forever changed by this, in the way that the land is changed by the water. Strangely at this moment, however, as I looked out the window, my thoughts bent in a different direction. My mind moved away from the images of water, and I began to think about Joseph, that beloved son of Jacob. I thought about how his life was like the winding river. It flowed in one way and then another. He sold into slavery, but finds favor with his first master, but then is thrown in jail, but then is given an audience with the Pharaoh, but then rises to power. His life was not a straight line, and he says as much to his brothers at the end of Genesis, after his father has died. Joseph says, "Do not be afraid. Am I in the place of God? Even though you intended to do harm to me, God intended it for good, in order to preserve a numerous people as he is doing today." No, I'm not suggesting for a moment that God intended COVID-19, but rather that God might work through this time nonetheless. And when we get to a point and are able to look back, I'm praying that we see the moments of God keeping God's promise to be present with us, of God working through this time for good. Perhaps it will be in the connections that were held or created despite the physical distance we held from one another. Perhaps it will come from the new skills we learned to adapt to an ever-changing situation. Perhaps it will come in the recognition that our faith communities gathered weekly outside of the four walls of our church to worship God together. Whatever it is, may we recognize how we have been shaped in new ways by this experience, that we have been forever changed as God has continued to move through our lives.